Okay, good evening. I would like to call to order the Charter Review Commission meeting. It's 6 o'clock and we have a quorum. So this evening I've invited Dr. Ricky Stevens to give our invocation. He's the superintendent of Keene ISD since 2013. He currently also serves as the chairman of the Keene Economic Development Type B Board, and he was our 2014 Keene Chamber of Commerce Citizen of the Year. He's married to Joanne, who I've met, very nice lady. He has 3 daughters, all of whom graduated from Keene ISD. So let's stand for the invocation, and then we'll have the pledges afterwards. Dr. Stevens.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for letting us be here tonight, Lord, for these men and women who are giving of their time, dear Lord, to do things, Lord, the betterment of our city. Lord, we just thank you for the country we live in. Lord, we know that when we count our blessings, one of the major ones is living in the state of Texas, and Lord, living in the city of Keene. We thank you, Lord, for the values that are here, Lord, for the standard that is raised and how high the bar is. Lord, I pray that you'll just be with us, and especially with the schools in the next couple weeks, as all of them are graduating, the students that are going to be leaving for the summer from the college and the ones who will just be doing summer here in town. Lord, we just pray for their safety. Thank you for the parents, Lord, that are involved. Lord, we pray that you be with our city. Lord, give us guidance. Lord, as we grow, Lord, we pray that we'll grow well. Lord, I pray that we can continue to be a shining hill, Lord, a city on a hill, Lord. We love you and praise you. In your name, amen.
Amen. Amen. Okay, the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Okay, we have, I don't have any announcements, but Mr. Batla does.
Yes, thank you. Good evening. Just wanted to recognize Holly for all your hard work. She is keeping up with A Board, B Board, P&Z, Council, and the Charter Commission. There's a lot of agenda regulations and timetables and a lot of juggling parts. So I just wanted to recognize you for that. So.
Thank you. She's always very patient when I call her and sounds so cheerful, so I appreciate that. Okay, on our consent agenda, we have one item tonight, approval of the minutes. I hope everyone's had a chance to look at it. If you haven't, I guess you can take a moment or two. Is there a motion to accept the minutes? Okay, a motion.
I'll move to approve the minutes.
Is there a second? Okay, second, Samantha Gillen. All in favor? Okay, I believe it's unanimous. And thank you guys for all being here, really appreciate it. Okay, Mr. Chesser has brought a really nice document for us this evening. And so I am going to turn this over to him. And if you have any final questions, he will make sure that what he's presenting here to us this evening is indeed what we want to present as our recommendation to the City Council. And then he has brought along a resolution so that if once we're in agreement with all of this, we can adopt this resolution and move it forward to the city council. So, Mr. Chesser.
Good evening, members of the commission. I'm glad to be back here. Hopefully, we'll get this thing wrapped up tonight. So, without further ado, I will start into the change if that's what you want me to do. Kind of just walk through them. I picked up one other.
Would you mind putting your mic on? Thank you for the streaming audience. Thank you.
Yes, is it on? Now it is.
There we go.
Now it is. All right. So what I'll do is walk through these changes. I'll start off with the first change. I don't know if y'all noticed it on section 1.02. That was a transitional language in 102, talking about beginning in 2015. Y'all had a change in how your elections were conducted in the ward places. And so I eliminated all that transition language and just kept it the way it is as you do it today. So I won't spend a lot of time on that. Just a little housekeeping. Section 104, I did not add it in accordance with state law, and I'll tell you why I said that, just because recently the annexation laws allows you now to annex down roads, and so annexation law is changing every legislative session. And so I just want to make it clear that it's got to be in accordance with state law. So that just, to me, it's just, that makes it sure in the future we're complying with the law.
Madam Chairman, are we just going to vote these as a package? Do you have any feelings on that?
Yes, he brought a resolution here, and if we have any concerns, now is the time for us to say, what about this word or that word, so that he can put it in here, and then that will be what we finally adopt with this resolution to move it forward, to recommend it to the council.
I mean, if you have any changes, I think we'll just have discussion like we did last time. We'll come to a decision on the wording, and then ultimately we'll just approve attaching this to the document as amended here tonight, and then I'll put whatever change. I know I got a blank, for example, on the forfeiture provisions dealing with the code of the rules of city council rules of procedure. I did not know the actual ordinance number for that. So a few little things like that will clean up, but ultimately y'all will approve tonight just the structure of everything. All right, getting on to 3.02. It's my understanding at the last meeting y'all decided not to make any changes to that. That is the provision dealing with compensation for council members and the expense reimbursements. So I left that just as you had it in the charter originally. I did provide an example there under that CRC change updated. I noted there was no change, but I attached just language there. That's from another city that basically says that they'll serve with compensation as may be provided by ordinance, so you could adjust it periodically. But I did not put that in there. I just showed y'all that as an example.
Is
What
everyone
do y'all
fine
think?
with that?
The example?
Well, he put it in as an example, but he did not put it into the verbiage here of the document because we had indicated we didn't want it. And so we're leaving it as it was.
I don't know, I kind of like the fact that it's his example because it would be timeless where we're locked into $10. Where with his example language, since we're making all these changes, that would make it where it would just progress as time goes by. Ordinance would change it.
So you want to go back to allowing the council to set it by ordinance periodically?
Right.
Okay, what, other comments from anyone?
Now I know why you don't like sitting here. This button's retarded. My only, I like keeping it the same, and I don't want to add that verbiage, and the reason why is because I feel like then we're giving the power to the council to choose whatever they want, or whatever the amount they want. So if we leave it in the charter, then it has to be a charter revision which again has to go before another commission at another time. And I feel like that could be dangerous if the wrong people get voted in here at some point. So that's just my feeling. Even though I tried to give everybody a raise, and I appreciate the comments and the feedback, if we're gonna keep it, then I think it needs to be a charter revision some other day.
I wanted to say something. If you want us to have a raise as council people, where they don't say nothing out there, you could give us a raise out of your pocket. I would appreciate it. We won't take another dime. If you ask me, they shouldn't give us nothing anyway, because we vote to get in here.
Can we strike that from the
I
record?
think that's another section.
Take
Yeah,
the
that's in
$10,
another
$20.
section. Okay. So leave that and no changes. Is everyone in agreement on that?
We're gonna do it, if it's ever changed, it'll be by ordinance
No.
No, ma'am.
No,
It'll be by charter revision.
again. Oh,
You may revise your charter probably about every 10 years.
yeah, but I thought in his changes, he's asked that it be set by
It's
ordinance.
just a recommendation.
Yeah, they asked for some, if that could be done. I think there's a lot of flexibility in that provision with the ordinance, but to be honest with you, I mean, a lot of cities don't have any compensation. So to me, it's not y'all aren't gonna, I would hope a council would never change it to $75,000 a year for each council person. I mean, there'd be an uproar and probably a quick recall of all the councilmen. So there are checks and balances, but I'm kind of like Mr. Smith. I think it creates a lot of issues that people concern about and may take away from the overall changes we're making in general. So I think sometimes it's better to focus on kind of what the main ones you want sometimes and the ones that don't have to really change. Ultimately, you get compensated for any expenses you're out of pocket and, a little stipend for showing up. So,
Now, does council get to vote on that? I mean, if they even wanted a raise, that should be
yes,
council
sir.
voting, right?
They will. Yeah, this will come to y'all. Yes, sir.
Fine, thank you.
All right. 3.03, this was the language we crafted where the mayor now will make one nomination and the council will vote that up or down. And at the same meeting, should they not let the member nominated by the mayor, then y'all can make your own nominations. So that won't have to be a two-meeting process. You can just do it at the same meeting, and it'll clarify the nomination issue. Is everybody okay with the language I added? I think I tried to capture everything we agreed to last time.
I wanted to ask a question in that. The only question I have is because another sentence is formed where it says should, and so then it kind of doesn't clarify if that's still talking about the same meeting or not. That's the only thing that is throwing me off on that. Because we stopped the sentence before the word should at the one-year term, and then should the city council, it doesn't have clear language saying in the same meeting.
Well, by not excluding it, I mean, you could do it, it just says, should you not elect that person she nominates, then you can go ahead and do it at that meeting or
Okay.
your next meeting if you want. It doesn't put a time, but you want to do it as soon as possible. So,
Okay.
but that's the point. It limits the mayor to one nomination, and then the council can appoint and nominate.
Okay. I just didn't know if it had to be more specific.
No, I don't
or
think so.
timeframe.
I do not think so.
Okay. Perfect.
Because we eliminated at the next regular
next.
meeting, so,
Yeah.
so it's basically, it can be done immediately following the other nomination.
In that same paragraph,
Yes, ma'am.
in that same paragraph, the mayor pro tem shall retain the right to vote as a council member?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so if they vote as a council member and they cause a tie, then who breaks the tie?
Well, if they break the tie, then the mayor would break the tie.
Okay, okay,
But of course,
Well,
the
the-
mayor pro tem mayor wouldn't be there at that meeting, so there will be a tie, it'd just be a tie, it would fail.
Okay, so that's what I meant, if the mayor wasn't there. and the
This,
mayor-
this issue is kind of what we've gone back and forth, what I found, it's been a year or so ago, a couple years ago now. Y'all were kind of inconsistent. We had 2 or 3 times where the mayor pro tem didn't vote, and then 2 or 3 times the mayor pro tem did vote. And so after researching and looking at it, then I wanted to make it clear
Yeah.
in the future that is, so that way there won't be any question in the future. So, and that is the typical provision, because the mayor pro tem is a sitting council member who's just been temporarily, essentially serving the duties of the mayor in the absence of the mayor, so.
Yeah, I agree with that. I just was wondering who
Yes,
would
ma'am.
break a tie for
No,
what.
you would have a tie if you had straight 6 and you had a 3-3 vote, so there is nobody to break the tie in that instance.
I guess then I have a question. Is the mayor pro tem required to vote? Because my memory is that rules of order are the chair can reserve the right to vote.
Yeah.
So they don't have to?
No,
Or
well-
does this mean that the pro tem would have to?
No, we don't have an obligation under our rules of procedure. Of course, if you have a conflict
Okay.
of interest or something of that nature, you cannot vote. So there is no mandatory requirement that each person vote. I think that is a duty bound as a council member. You should vote unless you have a legally prohibited reason to
Okay.
vote. But that
Okay.
does not mandate that the mayor pro tem vote. But they have the right to vote. All right, 3.05. I think this is one of the provisions y'all wanted to look at, to make sure you're okay with it. I saw from your notes. And I know there was some question about the city manager's, what'd you call it, the incident command plan or the emergency management plan or something of that nature?
Yes.
And that's why I changed it from just letter to written directive. I mean, because in the future, the city manager may not call it the same thing. But ultimately, the spirit of this is he could file the emergency management plan with the city secretary with a letter just saying, in the event of my absence per section 5 of the plan, then this person will act in my stead as the city manager while I'm gone. And then, of course, if he happened to be gone for 30 days or more, then the council can then take action and appoint whoever they want to appoint, including an outside person. So that's my understanding. I wanted that right. So I clarified it is not just a city employee, but any person you might want to appoint. Does that make sense, Brent? I mean, it's something you can do?
Yeah, the one point that we were talking about last meeting, the emergency management plan is really only covering city emergencies.
Yeah.
So if I was gone for some other reason,
Yeah.
that plan wouldn't necessarily be applicable, or that continuity of government plan that's in there, so.
Right. And so I think that's, to me, you would just need to have a letter that you put on file, a document you put on file with the city secretary, so that way, if you want to have somebody appointed, obviously if you don't, the council can then act.
Okay.
So, but I think this is a more practical way of it than, certainly than having a member of the council serving in this capacity. And this is the way it's usually done. When a city manager's, he could take a 2-week vacation and he's out of pocket, can't be just, he would just appoint somebody, the assistant city manager, if you have one, typically to serve in his stead. And then when he gets back, he's back in the saddle. All right, you have any changes to that language, or look okay to y'all? Okay.
Mhm.
All right. All right. And then on 3.06, we had if y'all recall last time, I think the language I added about is convicted of a felony or a misdemeanor crime of moral turpitude while in office. So I added that misdemeanor crime of moral turpitude. And then, at y'all's suggestion as well, y'all had originally on item 7, repeated violation of the adopted code of conduct, and I said commits 2 or more willful violations of the city's adopted code of conduct as may be amended, excluding any violation of the city's adopted city council rules of order and procedure as may be amended. And the reason I put that is that we have, in our rules of order and procedure, we put in a lot of checks and balances for the council and the mayor. So at the end of the day, I think we have a more democratic process for council to control the flow of the meetings. Y'all may agree or disagree, but at the end of the day, that's the spirit of those rules. So we really shouldn't have any, there are going to be violations that are de minimis is what I would say. Because now, for example, if the chair of the meeting wanted to remove somebody from a meeting, for example, the council has the ability to trump that and stop that. And so that's the way they're set up. And so that way there's that checks and balances, so we don't end up in a situation where we remove people wrongfully. And so I don't think you'll have that in the future because of that equal power, that checks and balances process. So, so what I didn't want to have happen is that, you know, somebody, because we do have some the provisions in our code of procedures that are just, you know, to be courteous and those types of things. And obviously, I don't think somebody should be removed from office for not being courteous per se. But that, again, that's y'all's decision. That was my suggested wording. And so if that's something you're okay with, we can take it to council. If not, you want to delete the second part of it, that's purely up to you. But that's why I drafted it.
I have a question about the word repeated. Does that mean 2? Does that mean 10? Or is that just?
Well, I took that out. So if you'll see there, the second part of it says CRC edition 5/12/24. Now it'll just read commits 2 or more willful violations of the city's adopted code of conduct as may be amended, excluding any violation of the city's adopted city council rules of order and procedure. That's the way it will read. I agree with you. The repeated would obviously be ambiguous, so I wanted to make it 2 or more.
Ray,
What about number 3 on that one? Are we going to make any changes there?
did you want to talk?
I didn't see your change.
No, that stays the way, yes, correct, yes. I did not change that.
But it's, before it said consent of the mayor, didn't it, originally?
Yeah, I mean, the wording, as y'all suggested, I didn't change that, I guess.
Oh, I see what you're saying, okay.
Yes. I think that change is good.
They could complain against somebody, the same thing, how many times do they do that?
Well,
Any discussion on that?
I have something to ask you,
I
sir.
Sure.
still didn't.
If you have somebody make a complaint on somebody as a councilman, it's the same thing they can make a complaint of, or whatever. How did you stop all that from the council having to deal with this every time we hear about it, or see, you know, same story? I mean,
Well, we just adopted our code of conduct, which allows that process to go into play. I mean, the only way to do it would, I mean, you can't stop people from complaining, but the process right now is set up the way the code of conduct is set up.
yeah, I understand, but what I'm saying, they going, before that even ever happened,
Yes, because we didn't have a code of conduct,
correct?
yeah. You'd have to, I mean, the code of conduct is an ordinance you adopted, so you could always repeal it. It's your ordinance.
Okay. Thanks.
Your ordinance. Is everybody okay with that language then? Okay. All right, section 3.09. I think that was what y'all's change was, it had in there the affirmative vote of at least 4, so we just struck that, and so now the general rule will apply, just 4 members, the majority of the quorum would have to pass it. That make sense? Okay.
We've changed that to 2, right?
For the quorum?
On the 3.8?
Yeah, I was just,
oh,
3.08.
the,
Yes, no, that's a different, I'm sorry, I didn't see that one. Yes, that's That is now, yes, correct. Special meetings by 2. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Okay. All right. This is a big one, 4.09. This is our majority versus the plurality vote. And my understanding is on your May the 7th meeting, y'all were interested in proposing the majority vote language. And so that's what I put in this 4.09 language, and you'll see it there beginning at the bottom of page, what's actually at the top of page 15. That the returns, now, to be elected to an office of the municipality, a person must receive a majority of the votes for the office.
And if they fail to receive a majority of votes, then we'll have a runoff election.
Do any of y'all want to discuss this further? Are you happy to send this forward in this way to the council and let them make the final decision on this one? Which they will anyway. Okay,
So we're saying majority rather than 50% plus one then?
That is a majority. It's more than 50%. So if it's 50.1, whatever that is, it's got to be more than 50% to be a majority.
Okay, but, all right.
so majority would mean 50% plus one.
Right, but I mean, I just like that.
You like that?
I think it's just more easy to understand for somebody like myself with my 5th grade education.
For your Joe Sixpack.
Your six-pack, yeah. Gotta get half the vote plus one more makes more, a majority, is that like, you know? I just like the verbiage better, that's all, it was just me.
Are we discussing the 4.09 now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I have a problem with this because this committee voted that down the first time. And I just feel like since it was voted down the first time and later somewhere in our discussion, all of a sudden it was changed. And I didn't feel like that was correct, should be correct. And also I have a problem with it anyway, that I don't feel like this is an important thing that, as far as getting 50% of the vote, again, we're a long way from the 20,000, that's where the threshold is. And,
200,000, you talk about 200,000.
200.
I mean, 200,000, yes, yeah. We're still a long, long way from that. But I don't know. I just feel like there are so many changes that we're going to put out there to our public and try to educate them what we mean by all these changes. The one about the 50% of the election plus one, I just felt like we made the right decision when we voted it the first time, and I don't understand how it all got changed.
Well, that's what we need to decide today, then, is are we going to change it or suggest that change or not?
So,
When I was here the last time, it was
A done
unanimous that we weren't going to
We
change
weren't
it.
gonna do it.
exactly. And
But I understand it was a subsequent meeting and this,
Yeah, it keeps being brought back up.
Was everybody in attendance during that vote, though?
Yes.
Because I don't think I was here.
No, I don't think you were there
I
the
think
first
we were
time.
missing some people, so I kind of voted for the change. So I'm just asking and bringing that up, that I don't think everybody was here for the original vote, and maybe that's why it got added.
well, the original vote was 4:30, so I guess we could go back and see who all was there that night.
we had 12 that night,
Yeah,
We,
is my recollection. I don't know. if you-
we only have 12, and she was absent the first two.
Oh,
I was out, I think, that night.
Yeah, so I
So
don't
we had
think she
11.
was there
Right.
on 4:30. We had 11
I don't remember voting originally.
for that.
yeah.
Well,
You missed it.
This is the time for us to vote, no, we do not want this, or yes, we want to send it forward to the council. At the end of the day, Gwen will get to make her case again if we send it to them again. So,
I changed my vote, and the reason I changed to voting yes for majority vote is that way we can do a process elimination down to 2 candidates, then use up, with the remaining votes, it possibly could swing a voter in.
Yeah, that was my understanding, that it kept that third party. You know, it gets it back down to 2, to where the public has the option to vote for either or, not either, you know, which would make it easier.
Or 4 or 5.
Yeah, or 4 or 5, however many people that run for that particular seat.
Chuck?
I'm in agreement with Mrs. Beeson's second statement. This is an item that the attorney hasn't seen that we need to address to fix it, and we need to not be adding multiple items that aren't a problem. We're creating a problem. We need to focus on what the attorney has identified as items that we need to resolve.
So-
You don't want to change it then?
I don't,
So this
You
is
wanna
my
leave it
thought
like it
process.
is,
You could-
Why he has it now.
no, like it has been.
Oh, okay, well, I was trying to
Change.
clarify, okay, no change on it, not the majority.
So let's just suppose theoretically that we had 4 candidates running for an office. Potentially, you could have the person who got 26% of the vote could win, which means 74% of the people of Keene would be terribly upset with whoever was picked for that position.
Exactly.
So that's my thought process. I'm thinking, well, they just flood the pool with 4 or 5, 6 candidates. You wind up with someone that the majority of people may not be in favor of, where if you actually have to get it down to 2, then you've only hacked off half the people if
In theory.
you don't get the candidate they want. That's my thought process. Yes, I know it's going to cost us some money. I appreciate that, and there's pros and cons either way. But I feel like the people, we're representative of the people. If we get the right people in these positions, then the city will move forward.
Okay, I'll be the devil's advocate then. But we have, an election where we have 4 candidates, even 3, and it gets down to the runoff of 2. What percentage of the people that originally voted you think is going to come back and vote again? When we have such a low turnout in Keene anyway.
Well, it would still be the majority, wouldn't it?
It wouldn't matter how many voted. The 50 plus 1 would be the one that won. So you would have to,
I don't know.
hey, then if the person you didn't like won, then, hey, that's just the breaks.
That's happened before.
Yeah.
Now, maybe I'm confused on this, but say like when me, Troy, Ms. Gillen ran, right? The one that got the most vote won.
That's plurality.
That's the way we should have it. I don't know why we're trying to change it to 2 or whatever. That's what I believe. The leader should be the one that wins. It's like a ball game. You don't pick the guy that wins second by a point. That's the way I look at that point.
Does anyone else have input? Well, I think we're going to have to vote whether to send this forward or not.
Is it only a money issue why you don't want it? No? What is the issue then?
The lawyer didn't identify it as something we need to fix. It adds items to the agenda, to the list on the ballot. It makes it more complicated for the voters to disseminate what is important.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of things in here that he didn't point out ahead of time that we needed to fix.
What I'm trying to state is just the things he wants to fix.
And he's already done the work to get the verbiage in there for us.
I don't disagree with it.
I think something that was important that Mr. Paul Knott, when he was talking about it twice, because he came to 2 different meetings, he said, let the voters decide. And if
Whether they
want
want it or
that,
not.
I feel like they should get a chance to vote for it or not. I mean, I know the city council gets a chance to review and vote yes or no on these items too, but let the voters decide. And if they want it, they'll have it in there.
Well, and it also means a runoff, so those people, those last two that get it, they should be out there pounding the pavement to get the votes. So, you know, I wasn't for it to begin with, but I am now. Because I think the city needs some kind of way to get the best possible people in the positions that the people want.
But that's why they vote who wins. I mean, otherwise, if they didn't, just for example, say, if she ran today and she wins, so why do we need the citizen don't wanna hear all that? That's who they voted in here.
Okay, but you have 3 citizens voting. You have 3 citizens running. One citizen gets 40%. Another citizen gets 20%. Last part is 40, 20. And then last one gets 20%. Okay? Or you can even move it to where this one gets 40, 30, and 10. Doesn't matter. You're not getting half the votes. The 2 that lost, this is why I'm sitting in city council, is because the 3 people was running in a race. The 2 that lost to me had more votes than I did.
I think they were 54% of the vote.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were more than I was. So, there would have been a runoff between me and Mr. Larson. The people who voted for Mr. Luan would decide which one they're gonna go for. I had more people against me than for me. That's why the 51% is the correct way to do it. That's why if cities over 200,000 are required to do it.
Well, would someone like to make a motion to move this forward keep it or deny it
I
tonight?
make a motion that we leave it as it is, as the attorney has it now, with the majority.
I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor?
Keep your hands up, please.
So that's a tie.
So is
How
that,
many you have?
we have 10 here tonight, and that
Okay,
was
so
6.
okay, never mind.
Thank you.
Carries.
You still vote your day. Oh, you did.
I hope you do. I'll have my people up there.
I think it's a good thing, but we're covering a lot of territory.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully this is a
Okay.
real important one.
The section 5.01 on page 16, we took out the language "in consultation of the city council" with regard to the appointment of department heads. So it is, it's paragraph 5.011, and if you'll see there, I've got CRC 51224 change, and I deleted the "and consultation of the city council." So it'll just be "shall appointed or remove no director or head of any administrative department shall be appointed or removed without prior notice to the city council."
One reassigned or terminated, correct?
Correct, correct.
Okay, thought I was reading it right. That sounds good to me.
And really, it's to get, the consultation part makes it a little awkward. The city manager can now just provide a written notice that he's gonna take action on an employee, and so you'll know it. All right. Then the 5.01D, this is the companion provision with what we talked about before under the city manager filing the written directive pursuant to 3.05. He can designate his own person to stand in his place while he's temporarily out of the office. And then, of course, council has, if no written directive is made, or there's the absence or disability exceeds 30 days, the council will then appoint. So that's just the companion provision of what y'all were okay with last time.
I have a question.
Sure.
What if the city council doesn't approve of that person? Just like, so the city council appoints and hires the city manager.
Sure.
So he's out for 2 months. We don't like the person he's put in there.
You can remove it.
Okay, we still have that power somewhere else?
Sure.
Okay,
Yeah,
I don't want to do that, that was a thought.
Clarification.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the idea is, typically, things could, I hate to think of all the hypotheticals from, Brent was in a car wreck or something and, looked like he was gonna be out originally 10 days.
Gotcha.
You start the process, you realize, he's gonna be 6 months in the middle of it. You might wanna go ahead at that point in time and,
Get an interim city manager
Cancel,
versus a
cancel.
temporary.
correct,
Poor Brent.
yeah.
We're also gonna suspend his pay.
He's getting beat up all over the place. Seriously.
Brent, we're planning your
Yeah,
demise.
y'all are very specific. Let's say he gets hit by a bus on Thursday.
We thought of all the scenarios,
You can't have any of those scenarios, okay?
I think at our last meeting, there was some discussion too about an issue, I think in regards to all this, and that's why I said thought we needed more clarification from you or breakdown, was because of our scenario of when we were in between city managers.
That's what this is supposed to be clearing
Same
up.
thing.
The charter as it reads today allows for the council to appoint the mayor to serve. The big change of this provision, it allows the council to appoint the mayor to serve as the interim city manager,
Okay,
or to perform his duties. And so, you can't be compensated, but that is an unusual provision.
okay,
And it's more akin to a general law type city. And so what we're doing is removing that ability to appoint a sitting mayor to serve in that capacity.
all right,
And
thank you.
Okay.
I have a question on that deal.
sure.
I'm gonna speak for me, when I voted her in to be the city manager, she got a key to all these rooms. Now, she's not our city manager no more, she's our mayor. And I'm not understanding personally why she needs a key to all these offices when she shouldn't have one in my eyes.
Well, this provision, of course, will eliminate the mayor's position from ever being acting as the city manager. And so, and to me, my concern is always when you have a sitting city council member serving in a dual capacity like that, it creates issues of who is the boss over that person, because they are already in the capacity as the city council member or mayor, and now they're serving as essentially a subordinate to the city council. And so you can see there's kind of a built-in,
Big time.
and that's why ordinarily, under dual office holding, that would never be allowed, but your charter allows it, and so that's what we're fixing up, cleaning that loophole.
Yeah.
So, and again, it just makes good sense to make the change.
But you think
we
the
need
mayor
this
should
change.
have a key to the offices?
Well, I'm not making any comment on that. That's,
It's a separate issue.
yeah, at the end of the day, this will clean up the process for, the interim city manager role. And so, hopefully this will eliminate any of that issues down the road.
Okay.
On page 22, the 5.01, or I'm sorry, 6.16F, that is, I didn't make any changes from what we had originally changed, which is, basically shall have the power to issue certificates of obligation in accordance with the laws of the state of Texas. So that way, we capture if there's any changes in those requirements, then this will last that lifetime. So, let's see. I think we're getting close to the end. This one is probably the Article 10, and this is, if you look over, I went ahead because it was a little tricky making the changes, mainly because we're taking out the petitioner's committee. And so if you see, starting on page 32 is my change. And I tried to keep everything the way it was as far as the standards. You know, I didn't raise the number of votes required or petition signatures required or anything like that. It just now the process is essentially the citizens will, they'll do their own petition. They've got to get the signatures. They can only have signatures on there that are within a 30-day period as it's presented to the city secretary.
So anybody could get a petition of any kind and just start taking names?
Correct.
Ooh,
But you have to date it, and of course, that,
Yeah.
the petition has to meet the requirements of the charter. You understand, I mean, the process isn't a whole lot different except for you don't come to her to get the the petition produced. You'll print it up yourself, you'll make sure it meets these requirements,
okay.
and then you go get the names. The only names that will count are qualified voters who reside in the city, who've signed it within 30 days before it's presented to her.
How do you
So-
verify how do you verify the 30 days?
They'll have to sign under oath. They have to sign the day they sign it, and then the petitioner who submits it has to put under oath that all those people signed it on the days they indicated.
And
How
'cause
do you
so,
verify that? There's a loophole there.
there's a big one.
'Cause
Well, I mean-
people will lie about that.
Well,
Politics.
Yeah.
But also, one of the reasons I think that it was kind of brought up was I was part of the recall.
sure.
And we did not turn in, we had to turn in our committee, the 20 names. We did not have to turn in the other names that we got if we withdrew. We didn't have to. So we didn't. So the question was, one of the people wanted to know all the names of the people who had signed on those petitions. There'd already been harassment of some of the people who had been on the committee. So if we do it this way and everybody just goes, gets a petition, gets it signed, then those names are gonna be there, out there in the public for ever, for anybody to see.
You have to stand the courage of your convictions.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Ye-
very serious. If you sign that petition under oath and you lie,
Yeah.
I mean, the whole democratic process comes to a screeching halt.
Exactly.
And so, this is very serious. I mean, rarely do recalls work because they're, by their very nature, a very harsh remedy, and they've been elected by the voters. And so, of course, the voters get to decide, whether that election is successful or not, and rarely are they successful. So, if you don't want to make this change, then we can leave it the way it was. It doesn't, that's purely up to you. What the complaint was originally and the way it's set up now, if you want me to keep the petitioner's, committee in there, we could, right now, the way it is, you could theoretically present the affidavit of the petitioner's committee, get the petition issued to you. You don't get the signatures. You can do it again and again and again at any time. Because it right now just says that the limitations are when you've presented it to the city secretary and it's deemed insufficient. So if it's not turned in, it doesn't start any limitations. And of course, that was, again, remember, this is a citizen remedy to remove somebody from office. So usually the way those are interpreted is the most generous to the citizens because it is their remedy, their method. And so I would never opine that they could not, you know, I mean, I follow exactly what the wording says, which it says that you can't file a subsequent recall if it's been deemed insufficient by the city secretary. So that's what we followed, and that's why we allowed the subsequent petitions to be, the process to start again. We never received, however, a petition. So, anyway, it's y'all's provision, the way it's set up now, and I will agree with you, if everybody lied and signed falsely, you know.
2 months to sign and say that, you know, they could take 2 months to get all the signatures when it's supposed to be 30 days.
Yeah.
They just falsify the date.
Yeah.
And that's completely possible with it written this way, because you don't have to go to the city secretary.
No, you don't
to get the
start,
petition.
you don't start it that way, that's correct.
So there's no control over basically over the voting of it, or getting the petition to get it on the ballot.
Correct. You want to leave it the way it is? Not the way I wrote it, the way it was in the charter?
But,
I think it's better to have the,
no, that's fine, I can't get anybody's attention. Then once these names are turned in, that's when they become public record.
Yes, ma'am. Once the affidavit is filed by the committee, I mean, it's filed with the city secretary, it's an official record of the city,
Yeah.
yes, ma'am.
Okay. Because they were interested in not having their names released, so, okay,
but the committee of 20 gets turned in anyway.
yeah.
There is no committee at 20. If we go with this wording, there is no committee.
No, there would not be.
Okay, but that's what I'm saying. To me, we need the committee of 20 because it's more control over the numbered ballot, the numbered petitions, and getting those names turned in. Nobody should even be getting those or picking them up if they're not serious about getting out and getting the actual votes. And the people on the committee should be told, your name is going to be a public record,
Yeah.
you know, and so will the petitions once they're turned in.
Our public record.
To me, that's more secure, but that's just me.
Okay.
Is there any language that we can add to what's here to make it a little stronger, or is that not a possible remedy?
Well, if we take out the process with the committee, the fear that you're talking about is, you know, the fraud, there's no way to prevent that.
Okay.
I mean, when it's presented to her, the city secretary, I mean, she's gonna initial the petition.
Yeah.
And then they start circulating it. So she'll notify the person that is being subject to the recall, and that's when it all starts. And so, it starts from the day, yes, and I think that's what it says too.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's a tight time frame. It puts her under, you know, it's pretty stressful. Because the last time, I think it came in on like the timing was bad, like a Thursday or Friday. So they started the clock on a Friday, and the time she got the petition ready was Monday or Tuesday. And so, you know, that's, you know, it's,
Some of the days were already gone.
timing is, yeah, I mean, it goes 30 days goes fast.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, you know, and that's, like I said, you know, it is a democratic process set up in your charter. I'm not against it or for it, but it is a process that nearly every home rule city has. It's the only, you know, home rule cities are the only one that has the authority of recall. Recall is a you know, it's purely just a process of the citizens to remove somebody that they don't want. And so
I make a motion that we leave it with the committee of 20,
just leave it the way it was before.
the way it was before.
Is there a second? Further discussion?
I have further discussion. So I'm waiting for a second or no second.
I'll second that. I think we should leave that.
Now we can have further discussion.
Now we can have
Now
some
we
discussion.
have discussion.
So I guess I don't understand why because right now we got 20 people who bring a petition to the city secretary and she signs an affidavit saying that
That's valid.
that it's go, right?
Well, no, what she issues now, the petition they circulate.
That are numbered.
Yes,
Right.
and our number, yes, yes, sir.
So my question is, why couldn't we have the petitioner bring something to the city secretary to start with, and boom, that 30 days starts then, and eliminate the whole 20 people, just have one
Yeah.
person come to the city
Yeah, I
secretary?
think we could do that. I think we could do that.
Okay.
We could do that. We could have her just initial the petition is brought in. Now, it'll, once that happens, she'll need to make a copy of it. I mean,
Well, she'll need to have them numbered as well.
yeah, yeah,
And nobody can make copies of them.
yeah.
I like where Rob's going with that. There's gotta be something to start the clock.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Yeah, there has to be some accountability, which closes the loophole in what we're seeing right now.
May I ask a question? Holly, how much of a problem would that be for you to do something like that on just a petition?
Just an ordinary.
I won't know till I get one. I mean, I'll do what y'all pay me to do, so I'll get it done.
It's not a fun time, but
Are there just boilerplate petitions out there so that they have a form of,
no, I mean, we have one now. I mean, we put one together, so.
so the petition that this group would use, the recall people, would still be something they got from the city secretary, or would they just put this together themselves? How would they know to put it together correctly?
Well, that's, like I said, the charter has what they have to have in it.
And so,
So if they have the substance in it, then it will be
if
sufficient.
they're asking for the right things,
Mhm.
they can have it in whatever format they want.
I think that's the merit behind it is that some cities try to keep the city secretary out of the line of fire, and that's kind of, the last time it was a pretty contentious time, and they were coming pretty fast and furious, and it's, so the advantage of the way I have it drafted now is that they have to draft the petition, put it together, get the signatures, and then turn it in. And now, we could just make it to where she just has to initial, I don't want to put it to where she's initialing the, I think if we did it to where they have to bring it to her to just to essentially acknowledge that the petition process has started.
Why wouldn't they come to her to get the petition, the blank?
They can. The only thing is.
With numbers on it?
When our petitions are presented, or when ours of us, you're supposed to do them in Spanish versions and English versions. If they're doing it themselves, they can do it just in English. So it's a little more difficult process when we have petitions that we're creating, so to speak, for the citizens. Last time I think we just had to go with English. We didn't have time to have it transcribed into Spanish as well.
So would that be a form that is on the city website they can access like other forms we have?
I've never seen that done that way exactly. I mean, it's usually supposed to be a more, usually it's a petition that the citizens put
A
together.
little more homegrown?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's really a, it's a citizen-driven initiative. And so that's, the reality is that's kind of the way it's set up. The only difference is the affidavit. She has to look through the committee that signs, the 20 that sign the affidavit. She has to make sure they're citizens and qualified voters of the city of Keene. So that takes a little time.
And if you look through 200, it's even worse.
Yeah. Now, that's, again, yeah, exactly. I mean, you're right. And of course, but if you want me to draft some protections like that to start the clock, maybe I can do that. Is that something you want me to do? Okay.
Well, I have a question for you. So we started at section 10.02, and that's the petitioners committee.
Yes, sir.
So to me, I feel like that would be the perfect place to get rid of all the verbiage that's there and say, you gotta come pick up a form from the city secretary in order to start it. Forget about the 20 and just say that verbiage. Then in section 10.03, which is the circulation, that's the part where you say you got 30 days to get this done, to bring it back. Then section 10.04 can remain exactly the way you've got it worded now, which tells you, hey, this is where the city secretary deems it, you know, acceptable or not, and we can move forward from there, which then ends the clock, which means that then you can't start a recall for another 6 months. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think the main thing that's missing from here right now is, you know, the petition right now would be, we could have her initial, you know, they bring in the petition, they're starting the process, and she would initial, they have 30 days to bring it back in, once she initials it or acknowledges that there's a petition being circulated. I mean, you could have that done. But you'd have, you have to have some, right now, the way it's drafted, it doesn't have a timeline to submit it. It's, the signatures must be signed within 30 days prior to giving it to her.
Just an idea. You know, if they have to come in, if they have to bring in their own forms, maybe she starts a clock, but we require them to she validates their form. Do they have all the necessary information? Is this going to be a valid form? Starts a clock, you know, whatever, your stamp of approval, now it's valid.
What if what if 30 people decide they want to do a petition and she has to validate 30 of them? Each person runs out and gets 10 people or whatever. I mean, that would be, to me, that would be a nightmare to do that, but.
On 10 different issues?
Well, I'm just saying that, you know, if the way it is, you get your petition for the committee, okay? When you bring in your committee, then you pick up, or should get your other petitions ready for you. They have a number on them. That kicks off the start date. And it's the same thing. The only thing is there's control. There's the control of the date it started and everything else. If people are not going to do that, do you think that they're actually going to, well, anyway, if they're actually going to get their own petitions together?
We could have her essentially initial the same process she's doing when she issues them.
Yeah.
That is the acknowledgement. It has to have her
That they're
initial
numbered.
on the petition for that petition to count.
Okay.
And that's what I guess we would draft in there.
But a couple weeks ago, it was actually you, Ms. Gillen, that said, hey, I don't want my name or 20 people's names being out there.
Well, and they don't.
And now, and I'm not saying you're kind of reneging, you know, on your idea of taking that apart, but now you're wanting to go back, and which then does expose those 20 people. And to avoid that, I think it makes sense for him to write something new up instead of
Okay.
the motion that you currently have.
But you're saying that the 20 people's names, that's the problem being out there, because everybody's name's going to be out there, regardless of how it's done.
And I understand that. I mean,
They are. And my question then was, the 20 got out there first before everybody else signed the petitions. And those 20 had repercussions for being on the committee. The people that signed the petitions that didn't get turned in because both sides withdrew, then those names never got out there. They didn't get repercussions because they were not out there. So now you've got, I grab 10, you grab 10, Chuck grabs 10, we go out and we get names of everybody. When we turn them in, those names go public. So it's the same thing, but it's just different. And to me, it's more cumbersome.
okay.
And only the 20 people on the committee would be getting the petitions signed. So you better be picky about the people you put on the committee. Well, anyway, that's just my opinion. And we had a motion in a second, so do you
Yes.
want to demolish that?
Okay.
Yeah. Want to take a vote on it?
So are you ready to vote? Okay. All in favor? Okay, let's go back. Can you tell us what we said? There's been so much discussion. And
Sorry, Mrs. Gillen's motion was to keep section 10 as is.
as is, right, okay. Okay. So all in favor of leaving it the way it was originally? Okay. Okay.
Woo-hoo.
Oppose? And then we have all these other people. We had 3. You're not voting on this? You're not?
Well, it's not when you're doing it. It's not a joke. Yeah.
I mean, how many times do they go through this? I've been here 20 years, 25 years, and only seen it with me and you and Henry. It don't scare me. If they vote me out today, it wouldn't hurt my feelings. That's the way I feel about it. If they gonna vote you out, what are you worried about?
I'd have my Thursday nights back.
Scared? Good man.
I ain't scared of nothing.
Okay, so were we tied, or was it didn't carry?
Voting on, that's the thing, it's the process.
To have
Yeah,
a simplified.
you can be voted out either way. I just want to talk about this vote was for the process that we have to go through. So that's why it's important to vote.
Okay, what? I know. Well, I like the security of the way it was originally. I think the affidavit process would just eliminate some of these things from ever even starting if you can't get 20 people. So I'm going to vote to keep it the way it was.
Very good.
And someone here said last time that it wasn't that contentious, we should just leave it the way it was. So I'm sticking with that.
So the only changes to that provision, there was some, the reversal of words on 2. It's over in the referendum and recall language on paragraph, well, I'm looking at so it'd be the old 10.09. Those are going to be the only changes to the provision, just correcting, they used the wrong word, they reversed them. And so E will now say referendum, and F will say recall.
Recall.
Okay, that's the only change then to Article 10. And that is it.
Are those just, I know those are pretty important semantics, but is that just a clerical?
I don't know. I didn't look at the
Would that have to go all
ballot
the way
language.
through ballot referendum?
I assume it was just, again, maybe it was just a mistake when we did our ordinance, or, did the ballot language. I don't know.
Okay.
I need to look at, I would like to pull, if you've got the last charter ordinance calling I'd like to see that and just to double check it and see. But yeah, it is kind of strange. But that's the only 2. All right then. So we've got
Given these, we have this referendum,
yes, the resolution.
resolution, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It still applies even with the changes that we've made, that it will be the changes as we've discussed here today?
Yes.
Okay. So you have.
I don't think it'll be it'll be essentially as approved here tonight. That's,
Okay.
we've come to the final language of
Okay.
everything.
So this resolution then enables us to approve for him to prepare to present to the council the things that we've discussed and voted on here tonight.
And so if you want to just say, I move to approve the resolution,
Right.
recommending the agreed upon changes to the charter.
So if someone would like to make that
Just say so moved.
motion to approve the resolution.
So move.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, great. Well, thank you. Everyone, thank you, Mr.
You're
Jessup,
welcome.
for all your hard work, and Holly, and
And Brett is still with us.
Mrs. Chairman, we actually skipped item number 4 this evening.
item 4. Oh, public comments. Do we have public comments? Oh, my, well, we
Didn't want to
can
leave
go
anybody
up
out.
to number 4. We haven't adjourned yet. Are there public comments?
Troy, get down there and talk, will you please?
You have public comments? So we have Stephen and, sorry? Jessica. I actually have a question. Yes, ma'am.
Jessica Bradbury. Sorry, I'm going against my husband here. So my question is, on the 50+1 vote thing, when y'all put this out there for us citizens to vote on it, are y'all going to go into details on how much it's going to cost? Because I kind of agree with Ms. Beeson, I want my roads fixed. So, are y'all going to explain to us, because if I see this on the ballot, 50+1, but no details about it, I won't know nothing. So y'all are at least going to say how much how much it's going to cost, so us citizens know.
Jessica,
We've asked this before, and I think the attorney had an answer for us.
Well, what we'll have, actually, we're required by law to put a fiscal impact for any of these charter amendments. So we'll have a little charter amendment that, you know, it's really, you know, it will be more costly, and certainly it'll be part of the discussion. We can't advertise for the city is not allowed to spend money to promote one way or the other. So that'll just be part of the citizens will have to carry that along, and certainly can ask questions as the council considers this for approval. We will have to have a fiscal impact for each one of these provisions. That's probably the only one that will have, I mean, slight additional cost from it.
Okay, because I understand why you're voting on it, and I agree with y'all, but I just think a lot of citizens would definitely want to know the cost. So thank y'all for keeping us up to date.
And what did you find a cost of an election is? Runoff? It was like 20,
Yes, so the elections administrator, the high estimate is 15,000. Mr. Knott spoke to a different employee in the elections office, and it was anywhere from 5,000 to 7,000, assuming we run the election ourselves.
yeah.
So anywhere from 5,000 to 15,000.
Mr. Attorney?
Yes, ma'am.
I was going to ask Jessica there, they're wanting to know what we mean by these things that we're changing.
Yes.
If we had a town hall meeting or something to explain what these mean to the citizens, can we do that?
I don't know
That's
about
not advertising, but
town
it's
hall. I
explaining.
don't, I think what the process will be, we'll present this to council. I'll literally have the change, and then I'll have an explanation, rationale for the change.
Okay.
So, I'll have on that provision that there will be a cost impact related to it. So
So will we
that'll be
have-
something the council will have, the council can discuss it. I mean, a town hall meeting, I mean, town hall meetings, you know, you have to make sure they're posted properly on the chart, you know, what you're discussing and all that. So, I mean, you can obviously you're gonna have a lot more discussion at the meetings in front of the council, so.
Okay, well, that's why I was wondering what would make her feel better about learning what, you know, or she thinks other citizens would like to know.
I mean, a town hall meeting's a good idea, but no offense, I know some of these citizens, and unless you're offering like a bounce house for these kids, they're not gonna show up. And I don't want y'all to waste y'all's money.
Yeah, yeah.
So as much as I would think a town hall meeting would be awesome, these citizens don't get involved as much.
Right.
And I just don't want someone voting for something, and then a month later, gosh forbid, Facebook blows up. Well, that's not what I agreed to when, yeah, it is, because you voted.
Yeah, well, that's why I was asking, what would make you feel better and give you a better understanding of what we've made, the changes that we've made, and why we've made them.
Oh, I'm sure my husband will go home and give me a better understanding.
I'm sure he will too, but I mean, not everybody has a husband up here.
Yeah, he'll explain it to me, so.
That's okay, you stand your ground.
Oh, I will.
Yeah.
Remember, the council still has to
Yes.
vote this up. They'll take these changes and then they'll make their own decision on what amendments to be. So there'll be several other opportunities to discuss it. And so I'm hopeful that there'll be a lot of discussion on these issues. And, you know, most of them are not very controversial. I think all of them will help assist in the governance of the city. that majority vote versus the plurality vote is the big issue we would have in this charter election. And again, there's valid reasons for having a majority vote, as we've discussed tonight, very pertinent reasons to do it. Not required by law to do it, but there's legitimate reasons to do it. Get a more representative vote for the person who's elected. So,
And the information that you'll present to the council as to the rationale, that's all part of the public record too.
Yes, ma'am.
So everybody can read that, and we can make copies and circulate some of that if.
Oh, okay, I didn't know we could make
Yeah.
copies. That's great.
yeah, I mean, it's,
That's great.
I mean, as I understand, the discussion process will be, they'll look at these recommendations, and then the
Yes.
council will make their decision.
Mhm.
And then we'll produce an ordinance, essentially, and the ballot language attached to
Okay.
that. So there'll be at least a couple more steps of discussion before this gets called. And we have a deadline, I think, August the 19th, to call the election. So, so we've got some time to discuss things and get them put in place the way we want them. So, but I think it was a good discussion. I want to applaud y'all for serving in this capacity. It's a very important function. This is a critical, this is our constitution for the city of Keene. That's the way you got to think of it. And it's important that you understand it and things are clear, and that's why we go through this. And so you've done a good job. I think the discussion was very good. Everybody was polite with one another. That's the way it should be. That's how the process works.
I think
That's
there's
okay.
a couple
I was just, our next step then, are we gonna, to the council, present the whole charter again, or just the changes, and go over them in council one by one to see if we want to do that?
Yeah, I would just do the recommended changes is all I'm going to present. The council can do whatever, they can,
Yeah,
they can do their own changes if they wanted to.
no. But I meant just when it's presented to the council, it will.
Yes, ma'am,
Okay.
yes.
Is I'm sorry, was somebody else?
I thought maybe Jen had her hand up. Okay.
Is this the last time we're gonna meet
I
together?
believe so.
Wow.
It is.
Gonna miss all y'all.
Was
And
that your question too?
Is this now a dissolving of this committee?
Yes, I believe it is. I mean, we've done our job. We're sending forward our recommendations to the council, and now it belongs to the council. Okay? So is there a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
No problem.
All in favor?